The company announcement had called it a strategic international leadership transition. For Maya Ellison, it felt more like stepping into an entirely different universe. At 34 years old, Maya had just become the youngest head of human resources operations in the history of Caldwell and Pierce Global Holdings, one of the most prestigious corporate firms in America. The company operated across finance, luxury real estate, biotechnology, and emerging tech. Their expansion into South Korea was projected to become one of the largest international business developments in the company's history. And somehow, she had been chosen to help build it. Not because she was lucky, because she was brilliant. Maya specialized in organizational restructuring, executive workforce strategy, conflict resolution, and corporate culture transformation. She could walk into a fractured company division and leave it functioning like precision machinery. CEOs trusted her because she knew how to balance humanity with profit margins, something most executives failed to do. Her role in Seoul was enormous, aligning people's strategy with business goals, overseeing all Korean HR operations, managing multi-million-dollar HR budgets, ensuring legal and regulatory compliance between Korean and American labor structures, developing executive policies, directing recruitment strategies for international expansion, handling compensation negotiations, employee relations, executive coaching, and perhaps most importantly, acting as a trusted advisor to senior leadership regarding workforce, organizational structure, and corporate culture. The pressure should have crushed her. Instead, Maya thrived under it. Still, moving across the world alone had moments that felt quietly overwhelming, especially at night, especially when the city lights stretched endlessly beyond her windows and reminded her just how far she was from Chicago. The condo Caldwell and Pierce provided for her sat in one of Seoul's most elite districts. The building itself looked like something pulled from an architectural magazine. Sleek glass exterior, private underground parking, security staff dressed in tailored charcoal uniforms, marble lobby floors polished so perfectly they reflected the chandeliers overhead. The elevator required fingerprint access. The penthouse-level condo occupied an entire corner of the tower. The company car came with a driver named Mr. Park, a polite older man who bowed every morning and always seemed to know exactly when she needed silence after difficult meetings. For 6 straight weeks, Maya worked almost non-stop. Boardrooms, conference calls, corporate dinners, policy reviews, executive negotiations, labor compliance meetings. Her schedule became brutal. By the time her first real day off arrived, exhaustion had settled deep into her bones. So instead of answering emails, instead of reviewing quarterly workforce reports, instead of preparing for Monday's executive strategy session, Maya told Mr. Park to take the day off. Then she took a taxi alone to one of Seoul's public gardens. The air smelled faintly of rain and spring flowers. Cherry blossom trees stretched overhead in soft clouds of pink and white, their petals drifting gently across stone walkways like falling silk. Families wandered peacefully through the gardens. Older couples sat quietly near koi ponds. Children laughed near wooden bridges arching over water. For the first time in weeks, Maya breathed. Really breathed. She walked slowly through the garden, holding a folded informational pamphlet written in both Korean and English. Her attention stayed fixed on a section discussing Japanese cherry blossom trees and their symbolic connection to renewal and impermanence, which was why she didn't notice the man standing ahead of her. She turned the corner of the pathway and walked directly into a wall of solid muscle. The pamphlet slipped from her fingers. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." She looked up, and up, and up. The man standing before her had to be at least 6 feet and 4 inches tall in a way that felt almost unreal. Broad shoulders strained beneath a fitted black cashmere sweater, dark trousers tailored perfectly to long, powerful legs. His hands were large, elegant, masculine, but it was his face that stopped people. Sharp jawline, straight nose, dark hair slightly falling across his forehead, and eyes, green. Not soft hazel, not gray-green, true green, striking enough to make someone pause. The entire world seemed to still for him the moment he looked at her. Because Maya Ellison was stunning. Not in the delicate, fragile way magazines preferred. No, Maya was the kind of woman who made a room feel warmer when she entered it. Curvy in a way that looked luxurious. Soft hips beneath a fitted cream-knit dress that hugged her body beautifully without apology. Rich brown skin glowed beneath the sunlight filtering through cherry blossoms overhead. Her waist curved inward before flowing into full thighs and elegant hips that moved with quiet confidence. Her hair fell in thick dark curls down her back, glossy and alive in the spring breeze. Gold hoops glimmered near her cheeks. Her lips were full and naturally soft pink-brown. Long lashes framed deep dark eyes filled with intelligence rather than performance. She looked expensive without trying to, powerful without demanding attention, beautiful in a way that felt human instead of manufactured. And when their eyes met, something hit him hard enough to feel physical, like lightning striking directly into his chest. For one dangerous second, Kang Min-Jae forgot how to breathe. Which never happened. Not to him. Not to the man Seoul's corporate world called the Green-Eyed Dragon. Kang Min-Jae was one of the most feared executives in South Korea. Calculating. Precise. Ruthless in negotiations. The type of businessman who dismantled billion-dollar competitors with calm expressions and perfectly folded hands. Boardrooms feared him. Investors respected him. Executives watched their words around him carefully. Because Min-Jae missed nothing. But the public never saw the other man. The one who anonymously funded college tuition for low-income students. The one who quietly financed housing programs in underserved neighborhoods. The one who spent early mornings walking public gardens looking at flowers because they calmed the constant pressure in his mind. Among the tiny circle of people he trusted, Min-Jae was known simply as the gentle giant. And standing in front of Maya Ellison, he suddenly felt strangely unsteady. She blinked up at him apologetically. "I'm really sorry," she repeated softly. Her voice snapped him out of whatever had just happened to him. Min-Jae bent immediately, retrieving her fallen pamphlet before she could. Their fingers brushed briefly as he handed it back. Warmth, again, that strange electric warmth. "It's all right," he said quietly. His voice was deep. Calm, smooth enough to settle nerves. Maya smiled politely. A quick professional smile. The kind, beautiful women gave strangers every day. Completely unaware, she had just destabilized one of the most powerful men in Seoul. Then she nodded once and moved past him toward the next line of cherry blossom trees. And Min-Jae stood there watching her walk away beneath drifting pink petals, feeling something dangerously unfamiliar settle into his chest. Interest. Real interest. Not lust. Not curiosity. Something deeper. Something that made the green-eyed dragon suddenly want to know the name of the woman who had looked directly into his eyes. And walked away, unaffected. Maya paused near another grove of cherry blossom trees, turning the pamphlet over in her hands while soft petals drifted around her like pale pink snow. The garden was quieter on this side. A small koi pond shimmered nearby beneath the afternoon sunlight. Wooden benches lined the stone pathway, and somewhere in the distance, soft traditional Korean instrumental music floated faintly through hidden speakers. For the first time since arriving in Seoul, her shoulders finally relaxed. She tucked one curl behind her ear and leaned slightly closer to read another section of the pamphlet. Cherry blossoms symbolize both beauty and the fleeting nature of life. A faint smile touched her lips. "That's poetic," she murmured to herself. "It's one of the reasons people love them so much." The deep masculine voice came from behind her. Maya turned slightly. And there he was again. The tall Korean man she had accidentally bumped into earlier, except now that she wasn't startled, she truly saw him. Lord, the man was devastatingly handsome. Up close, Kang Min-Jae looked even larger somehow. At 6'4", his presence naturally dominated the space around him, but not in an aggressive way. It was controlled power. Quiet power. The dangerous kind. His broad shoulders stretched beneath the fitted black sweater he wore, the expensive fabric contouring a muscular chest and powerful arms. Even relaxed, he carried himself like someone trained to command rooms without raising his voice. Dark slacks sat low against narrow hips. Everything about him was tailored, intentional, perfect. But his face. That was what made women stare. Strong jawline dusted with the faintest shadow of stubble, sharp cheekbones, full masculine mouth, dark hair slightly messy in a way that looked effortless rather than careless. And those eyes, those impossible green eyes, they were intense without being cold. Observant, steady. The kind of eyes that looked like they saw entirely too much. Maya suddenly became aware that he was studying her too. Not rudely, not like men back in America who often reduced her to curves first and humanity second. No. His gaze was careful, interested, almost respectful, which somehow made it worse. Maya straightened slightly beneath his attention. Min-Jae found himself momentarily distracted again, because she was beautiful in a way Seoul rarely celebrated openly. Not delicate, not tiny, not polished into perfection. Maya looked alive, warm, real. And he could not stop looking at her. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said, his Korean accent wrapped smoothly around the English words. Maya gave a small, polite smile. "No, you're okay." Silence lingered for a second. Then he surprised himself. "I realized I never introduced myself." That almost made her laugh internally. A man who looked like him introducing himself like a normal person was strangely disarming. He extended one large hand toward her. Kang Min-Jae. Her fingers slid into his. And once again. That strange electric feeling hit him. Her hand was soft, warm, smaller than his by far. Min-Jae's jaw tightened slightly before he released her carefully. Maya Ellison. His expression shifted almost imperceptibly. American. That explained the accent, but not why she was here. Maya, he repeated quietly. Her name sounded dangerous in his deep voice. "You're visiting Seoul?" "Actually," she laughed softly, "I live here now." That got his attention immediately. "You moved here permanently?" "For work." "What kind of work brings someone across the world?" Maya hesitated briefly before answering. "I'm the new head of HR operations for Caldwell and Pierce." For the first time since approaching her, Min-Jae looked genuinely surprised, because he knew exactly who Caldwell and Pierce were. Their expansion into Korea had become one of the biggest discussions in Seoul's corporate world. And suddenly several things clicked into place. The confidence, the composure, the intelligence behind her eyes. This woman wasn't just beautiful, she was powerful. Interesting. Min-Jae folded his hands loosely behind his back. "That's a very important position." "It's a very exhausting position," Maya corrected with a soft laugh. The sound caught him off guard. It was rich, warm, natural, not performative like the women constantly surrounding executives and politicians in Seoul. He found himself wanting to hear it again. "You came to the garden to escape work," he guessed. Her eyes widened slightly. "How did you know that?" "Because you looked relieved when you stopped walking." The answer was so observant it momentarily silenced her. Most people didn't notice things like that. Most people barely noticed her exhaustion at all. But this man apparently noticed everything. Min-Jae watched emotions move across her face before she tucked another curl behind her ear. "You're very perceptive." "I have to be." Something in the way he said it hinted at layers beneath the surface. Maya studied him more carefully now. There was elegance in the way he carried himself. Money, too. Old money. Not flashy wealth. Dangerous wealth. The kind connected to power instead of trends. Even standing casually beneath cherry blossom trees, he looked like someone important. Important enough that people probably moved when he entered rooms. Yet here he stood discussing flowers with a stranger. "So what do you do?" she asked finally. Min-Jae almost smiled. Almost. If she had spent even 1 week deeply involved in Seoul corporate circles, she would have recognized his name instantly. Instead, she looked at him with complete neutrality. And strangely, he liked that. "I work in business." Maya raised one eyebrow. "That sounds intentionally vague." A quiet huff of laughter escaped him before he could stop it. God. When was the last time someone spoke to him this casually? You're very direct. I work in HR, she said dryly. Reading people is literally part of my job description. His green eyes sharpened slightly with amusement. Dangerously handsome. That was the problem. Everything about him felt dangerous. Not because he seemed cruel, because he seemed controlled. Like the type of man who could destroy someone calmly if pushed far enough. And yet, standing beneath falling cherry blossoms with petals resting briefly against his dark hair, he also looked strangely gentle. Min-Jae glanced toward the trees. My grandmother used to bring me here when I was young. The softness in his voice surprised her. She said cherry blossoms remind people that beautiful things don't last forever, so you should appreciate them while they exist. Maya looked at him differently after that, less like a stranger, more like a man carrying quiet things inside himself. The wind shifted softly through the garden. Cherry blossom petals drifted between them, and for reasons neither fully understood, neither one seemed ready to walk away. The conversation should have ended naturally, a polite exchange between two strangers beneath cherry blossom trees before they continued on with separate lives. Instead, an hour later, Maya was still walking beside Kang Min-Jae through the gardens, and somehow it felt effortless. The afternoon sunlight filtered softly through flowering branches overhead, while petals drifted around them with every passing breeze. Stone pathways curved through the massive public garden, leading them past ponds, wooden pavilions, and carefully cultivated landscapes that looked almost too beautiful to be real. Min-Jae walked beside her with slow, unhurried steps. For a man his size, he moved surprisingly quietly. People occasionally glanced at him as they passed. Some did double takes, others subtly bowed their heads. Maya noticed it immediately. You know people keep looking at you, right? Min-Jae glanced at her calmly. Do they? Yes, she said dryly. Either you're famous or you secretly own this garden. The corner of his mouth almost lifted. Maybe they're looking at you. Maya laughed softly. You're very smooth for someone pretending to be mysterious. I'm not pretending. That somehow makes it worse. That quiet huff of laughter escaped him again, and Maya realized something unsettling. She liked hearing it. They stopped beside a tree with deep pink blossoms stretching elegantly toward the sky. Min-Jae looked upward briefly. This is the mugunghwa. Maya blinked. The national flower of Korea? You know it? A little, she admitted. I've been trying to learn more about Korean culture since moving here. Something approving flickered in his green eyes. Most foreigners don't try. Maya studied the flower carefully while he spoke. In Korea, the mugunghwa symbolizes resilience and endurance, he explained. Its name means eternal blossom that never fades. His voice changed slightly when discussing things he loved. Softer, less controlled. Maya found herself listening more to him than the actual information. The flower blooms repeatedly even in difficult conditions, he continued. That's why many Koreans see it as a reflection of survival. Maya looked at him thoughtfully. You speak about these flowers like they're people. Min-Jae's expression turned unreadable for a brief second. Sometimes they are. That answer lingered between them longer than expected. As they continued walking, he pointed out different plants and trees throughout the garden. Red camellias symbolizing devotion and unspoken love. White chrysanthemums representing grief, remembrance, and honor. Pine trees associated with longevity and integrity. Bamboo symbolizing strength and flexibility because it bends instead of breaking. Maya listened carefully to every explanation. Partly because it fascinated her, mostly because she enjoyed listening to him speak. There was intelligence in him that extended far beyond business, and despite his intimidating appearance, there was kindness too. Real kindness. By late afternoon, the sunlight shifted golden across the garden paths. Neither of them acknowledged how much time had passed. They simply kept walking, talking, learning each other in quiet pieces. Eventually, they exited through the northern gates of the garden and stepped onto a quieter street lined with small shops and cafes. A soft breeze carried the scent of roasted coffee and baked bread through the air. About halfway up the street sat a tiny cafe tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop. Warm yellow lights glowed through large windows. The sign outside was handwritten in Korean. Min-Jae glanced toward it, then toward her. Maya. The way he said her name should not have affected her as much as it did. Yes? There's a cafe here I visit sometimes. She raised one eyebrow lightly. Would you like to have lunch with me? No arrogance, no assumption, just calm sincerity. Maya studied him carefully. This man was absurdly handsome, tall enough to make most people feel small beside him. Broad shoulders, muscular hidden beneath elegant clothing, sharp green eyes that seemed capable of seeing directly through people. And yet somehow, he had spent hours walking through gardens discussing flowers with her. No flirting, no inappropriate comments, no attempts to impress her with wealth or status, just genuine conversation. It felt strangely safe, and Maya realized she didn't want the day to end yet either. So she smiled softly. I'd like that. Something warm flickered briefly across Min-Jae's face before he opened the cafe door for her. The smell inside immediately wrapped around them. Fresh espresso, vanilla warm pastries. Soft jazz played quietly overhead while sunlight spilled through the windows onto wooden tables and shelves lined with books and plants. It was intimate, comfortable, hidden away from the rest of Seoul. Maya slid into a booth near the window while Min-Jae sat across from her, his large frame somehow making the small cafe furniture look even smaller. A server approached instantly, and Maya noticed something interesting. The young man bowed very deeply to Min-Jae, far deeper than normal. Respectfully, nervously. Min-Jae acknowledged him with a polite nod. Lunch with Kang Min-Jae became something neither of them expected. The atmosphere felt calm, safe. A dangerous thing for two people who spent their lives constantly guarded. Min-Jae could not remember the last time he felt relaxed in someone's presence, especially a stranger's. You've been staring at me for the last 30 seconds, Maya said casually before taking another sip of tea. Min-Jae blinked once, completely unashamed. I know. Maya nearly choked laughing. There's something deeply alarming about your honesty. A faint smile touched his mouth. You prefer dishonesty. No, she admitted. I'm just not used to men admitting things that directly. That sounds exhausting. It is exhausting. That answer softened something in him immediately. The server brought several small dishes to the table. Kimchi, japchae, marinated beef, steamed rice, and fresh banchan arranged beautifully across dark ceramic plates. Maya looked impressed. This looks incredible. The owner makes everything fresh every morning. You come here often? Yes. For a while, they simply ate and talked. About Seoul, about American culture, about food, about adjusting to life in another country. Then slowly, the conversation became more personal. What made you choose HR? Min-Jae asked. My mother. That surprised him. She worked in corporate administration her entire life, Maya explained. Smartest woman I know. But nobody listened to her because she wasn't loud enough. Or male enough. There was no bitterness in her voice. Only honesty. So I think a part of me became obsessed with fixing broken workplace systems, because I watched talented people get overlooked for years. That explains the way you speak about employees. Maya looked down briefly at her tea. People spend most of their lives at work, she said quietly. The environment matters more than executives realize. He understood that immediately, perhaps too well. And you? She asked softly. What made you become who you are? Min-Jae looked out the cafe window toward the quiet street before answering. My family. Something in his tone warned her there was more beneath that single word. My grandfather built our company from almost nothing after the war, he continued quietly. My father expanded it. By the time it reached me, failure was not an option anymore. Maya listened carefully. Just pressure. Immense pressure. You were raised for it. Yes, and did you want it? That question lingered. Min-Jae looked at her slowly. No one has ever asked me that before. Maya's expression softened. That means no. A quiet breath escaped him. When I was younger, he admitted, I wanted to become an architect. That genuinely shocked her. You? A faint smile touched his mouth. Yes. I liked designing spaces, buildings, gardens. That actually makes sense. It does? You notice details most people miss. She shrugged lightly. That feels creative to me. For a moment, Min-Jae simply stared at her, because no one had ever understood that part of him so quickly. What stopped you? She asked gently. My father became ill. The warmth in the conversation dimmed slightly. He died when I was 26. Everything became my responsibility overnight. Maya's heart tightened unexpectedly, because suddenly she understood him better. The composure, the control, the constant awareness in his eyes. This was a man who had never been allowed to fall apart. That's lonely, she said quietly. The words landed harder than she realized. Min-Jae looked down briefly before meeting her eyes again. Yes. Outside, soft rain suddenly began tapping gently against the cafe windows. The entire atmosphere shifted. Warmer, more intimate. The city beyond the glass blurred beneath gray skies while the cafe lights glowed golden around them. Neither moved. Neither looked away. And for the first time in a very long time, both of them felt understood. Not because of titles, or money, or status, but because beneath all the success and power and expectations, they were both tired people carrying entire worlds on their shoulders. 3 days passed. 3 long days. And Kang Min-Jae could not stop thinking about Maya Ellison, which was a problem, a serious one. Because Min-Jae was not a man easily distracted. His days normally operated with ruthless precision. Executive meetings beginning exactly on schedule, international investment calls, acquisition negotiations, policy briefings, legal reviews, expansion planning. Entire industries shifted based on his decisions. People feared disappointing him. Boardrooms went silent when he entered. Yet for 3 straight days, his thoughts kept drifting back to a woman standing beneath cherry blossom trees with sunlight caught in her curls. It was absurd, dangerous, and entirely out of character. During a meeting regarding overseas biotech investments, one of his executives was halfway through a quarterly projection presentation when Min-Jae realized he had not heard a single word spoken in the last 30 seconds. Because instead of listening, he was remembering Maya laughing at him inside the cafe. You look like an expensive serial killer. Min-Jae leaned back slowly in his chair. The executive immediately stopped speaking. The entire room tensed. Everyone mistook his silence for displeasure. No one realized the terrifying green-eyed dragon was distracted by the memory of a woman smiling at him over tea. Continue, Min-Jae said calmly. But even then, his mind still drifted. The warmth in her dark eyes, the intelligence in her voice, the softness hidden beneath all her composure. He had spent years surrounded by people who wanted things from him. Power, money, status, influence. Maya had wanted none of it, and somehow that only made him want her attention more. By the 3rd night, Min-Jae finally accepted something he rarely allowed himself to acknowledge. He missed her. The realization unsettled him enough that he stood silently inside his office for several minutes overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. Then finally, he sat down at his desk, pulled out a sheet of cream-colored stationery, and began writing. Not typing, not texting. writing. Because somehow a text message felt insufficient for Maya Ellison. His handwriting was elegant and deliberate across the page. Simple, direct, honest. Maya, I hope your week has been less exhausting than the last time I saw you. There is a restaurant I think you would enjoy dinner with me Friday evening. If your answer is yes, call me Min-Jae. That was all. No arrogance, no assumption, just sincerity, which was infinitely more dangerous. 3 hours later, Maya finally returned to her condo after another brutal day. The moment she stepped inside her penthouse, she kicked off her heels with a tired sigh. The week had been relentless. Executive restructuring meetings, departmental disputes, budget reviews, compliance negotiations between Korean and American legal teams. Her brain felt fried. She had just loosened the buttons on her blouse when the penthouse intercom chimed softly. Maya blinked in confusion before walking toward it. Yes? Ms. Ellison, the front desk receptionist said politely. There's an envelope here for you. An envelope? Maya frowned slightly. At this hour? Yes, ma'am. Would you like us to send it upstairs? Sure. 10 minutes later, a concierge delivered a cream-colored envelope sealed with dark wax. No company logo, no return address, just her name written across the front in elegant handwriting. Maya stared at it for several seconds, then slowly opened it. The moment she unfolded the letter and saw the handwriting, her heart did something deeply annoying. Because no one wrote handwritten notes anymore. Especially not men like Kang Min-Jae. Powerful men texted, they delegated, they sent assistants. But this man had sat down and physically written to her. The realization affected her far more than it should have. Maya read the note once, then twice, then a third time. And somewhere during the third reading, she realized she was smiling. Actually smiling. Alone in her luxury penthouse like a woman in a romance movie. Unbelievable, she muttered softly to herself. Still holding the letter, Maya walked toward the massive windows overlooking Seoul. Rain shimmered lightly against the glass outside while city lights glowed beneath the dark evening sky. Then, before she could overthink it, she picked up her phone and called him. The line rang once, only once. Hello. Deep, smooth, warm. He answered so quickly it made her stomach flip. Maya leaned lightly against the window. You picked up on the first ring. I was hoping it was you. The honesty in his voice immediately made her smile again. Dangerous man. I've never had anyone ask me out to dinner with a handwritten note before, she admitted softly. On the other end of the line, Min-Jae leaned back slowly in his office chair, loosening his tie slightly. Just hearing her voice relaxed him more than it should have. It felt... He paused briefly. Calling or sending a text message seemed impersonal. Maya looked down at the note still in her hand. Something about that answer touched her deeply. Because effort meant something. Intentionality meant something, especially in a world where everyone rushed through connection. So, she teased softly, me calling to accept. Does that make it impersonal? A low chuckle escaped him immediately. God, that sound. No, he said warmly. I think it makes it very clear. Maya bit back another smile. The silence between them settled softly afterward. Comfortable, neither rushing to end the call. Outside, Seoul glowed beneath the rain. Inside his office, Kang Min-Jae sat alone at the top floor of one of the most powerful buildings in Korea, feeling something unfamiliar settle quietly in his chest. Anticipation. And inside her penthouse, Maya Ellison stared down at the handwritten note in her hand, realizing something equally dangerous. She was genuinely looking forward to seeing him again. The moment Maya ended the phone call with Min-Jae, she stood quietly inside her penthouse, staring out across Seoul's glittering skyline. Then she looked down at the handwritten note still resting in her hand, and smiled again. Which was exactly why she immediately grabbed her phone and called Denise. Because if there was one person on earth who would understand the severity of a man sending a handwritten dinner invitation in the year 2026, it was Denise. The phone rang twice before the call connected. Well, damn, Denise answered immediately. Look who finally remembered poor people exist. Maya laughed instantly. There it is. There what is? The South Side attitude. Baby, this ain't attitude, this is culture. Maya shook her head smiling as she walked barefoot through her condo toward the kitchen. I miss you. Denise interrupted immediately. Don't come in here sounding emotional unless somebody died, got arrested, or got pregnant. Maya nearly choked laughing. None of those things happened. So why you calling me sounding soft? Maya opened her mouth, then paused, and Denise caught it instantly. Oh my God. Maya said nothing. Denise gasped loudly. Oh my God. Maya started laughing harder. Denise, who is this man? The scream that came through the phone echoed so loudly Maya had to pull it away from her ear. You are yelling. Because you haven't called me sounding like this since college. Maya walked toward the massive windows again, still laughing under her breath. Okay, first of all. No, Denise interrupted. We not skipping past this. Maya Ellison called me sounding shy. I need details immediately. Maya leaned against the glass overlooking the city, and despite the distance between Seoul and Chicago, talking to Denise instantly made her feel grounded again. They had always been that way, more sisters than cousins. When Denise was 9 years old, her mother had been killed by a drunk driver coming home from work. Everything in her life could have fallen apart after that. Except Maya's parents never allowed it to. Maya's mother had taken Denise into their home without hesitation. There had never been separation between them afterward. No, this is my child and that's my niece. No favoritism, no difference in love, the same bedtime stories, the same birthday celebrations, the same support, the same protection. Maya's father taught Denise how to defend herself and change a tire before she was 12. Maya's mother helped both girls with homework at the same kitchen table every night. And somehow, through all the grief and healing, the bond between Maya and Denise became unbreakable, complete opposites, yet inseparable. Maya was polished, corporate, elegant. Denise? Denise was pure Southside Chicago energy wrapped in confidence and gold jewelry. At 33 years old, Denise Carter owned 4 mechanic shops across Chicago and ran them like a boss everyone respected. She could rebuild an engine faster than most trained mechanics, and still occasionally threatened grown men for trying to overcharge elderly customers. She was beautiful in a bold, unforgettable way. Golden brown skin, curvy body built strong beneath softness, light brown eyes sharp enough to read lies instantly, and a short pixie haircut that somehow made her look both feminine and dangerous at the same time. Denise carried herself like someone who had fought for every inch of her success, because she had. You still there? Denise demanded. Yes, so talk. Maya exhaled softly before smiling again despite herself. His name is Kang Min-Jae. And instantly, something inside Denise went still. Not visibly at first, not enough for Maya to notice, but the name hit somewhere deep inside her memory like shattered glass. Kang Min-Jae. Her smile faded slightly. What? Maya blinked. What do you mean, what? Denise sat up straighter slowly in her Chicago apartment. Her light brown eyes narrowed faintly. The name sounded familiar, dangerously familiar, but it couldn't be. It absolutely could not be. You said, Kang Min-Jae? Yes. Denise swallowed once, then forced herself to sound normal. Okay, continue. Maya missed the subtle tension completely. He's Korean, obviously. He's tall. How tall? Like 6'4". Denise froze, completely froze, because suddenly, a memory surfaced hard enough to make her stomach drop. Several years earlier, downtown Chicago, an upscale rooftop bar overlooking the city, one of the worst weeks of her life. At the time, Denise had been fighting to keep ownership of her downtown mechanic shop location during a brutal contract negotiation with investors trying to pressure her into selling. She'd been exhausted, angry, mentally drained. That night she'd gone out after finally closing the deal because she desperately needed to breathe. The first bar had been crowded, too loud, too many people. So she ended up at a quieter luxury hotel bar several blocks away. That was where she saw him. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair slightly falling across his forehead, and green eyes so striking she noticed them immediately even through alcohol and exhaustion. He'd already been several drinks deep by the time she sat down nearby. Quiet, withdrawn. Sad in a way powerful men rarely allowed themselves to appear publicly. She later learned through overheard conversation from hotel staff that his father had recently died, and that he had abruptly withdrawn from architecture school to return to Korea. At the time, she knew none of that, only that there had been something deeply lonely about him. And Denise? God, she had been lonely too. The memory hit harder now. Several drinks becoming several more, conversations blurring into laughter. Two exhausted strangers trying to outrun grief and pressure for one reckless night. Then his hotel suite, warm hands, green eyes, and waking up the next morning horrified with herself. Because Denise Carter had never done anything like that before. Never casual, never reckless, never careless. And seeing him asleep afterward had made embarrassment crash over her so hard she could barely breathe. While he showered, she left, quietly, without telling him, without leaving her name, without leaving anything. And she never saw him again, except weeks later. She found out she was pregnant. The memory still twisted painfully in her chest even now. Young, terrified, ashamed, completely overwhelmed. She had made the decision not to keep the pregnancy and buried the entire experience so deeply she swore she would take it to her grave. No one knew. Not Maya. Not her aunt. No one. And now, Maya's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. Denise? She blinked hard. Yeah. You okay? Uh-huh. But Denise sounded distracted now. Dangerously distracted. Maya frowned slightly. You sure? Girl continued describing this man. Slowly, carefully. Maya smiled faintly, completely unaware Denise's heart was pounding. He has green eyes. Denise's breath caught instantly. Real green eyes. Not hazel, not light brown. Green. Her stomach dropped. Oh my God. What? Denise pressed her fingers against her forehead. No. No way. Not possible. Out of every man in the entire world. No. Maya kept talking softly, smiling to herself now. He's muscular, very calm, intelligent, ridiculously handsome. Denise barely heard the last sentence because her mind was spiraling backward through years-old memories she had spent enormous effort trying to forget. The hotel suite, the way he had looked at her, the softness beneath all his sadness. And those eyes, those impossible green eyes. Maya, Denise interrupted carefully. How old is he? 38. Jesus Christ. Denise went completely silent. Because it was him, it had to be him, and suddenly she felt slightly sick. Maya? Denise forced herself to speak normally. You said his name is Kang Min-Jae? Yes. And he lives in Seoul. Yes? And he's rich. Maya laughed softly. He owns Mirai Group. That confirmed it completely. Denise stared blankly at the wall of her apartment. Her pulse hammered unevenly now. Yes. And he lives in Seoul. Yes? And he's rich. Maya laughed softly. He owns Mirai Group. That confirmed it completely. Denise stared blankly at the wall of her apartment. Her pulse hammered unevenly now. Because years ago she had spent one reckless, heartbreaking night with the same man her cousin was now falling in love with. and Maya had absolutely no idea. "Denise?" Maya's voice sounded farther away now. "You still there?" Denise blinked hard before forcing a laugh. "Yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking about the biggest secret of her life. Thinking about a hotel room in Chicago. Thinking about grief and alcohol and one terrible, reckless decision she had buried for years. Thinking about how impossibly small the world suddenly felt." "You okay?" Maya asked again softly. Denise inhaled slowly, then pushed every ounce of panic back down where it belonged. Because Maya sounded happy, really happy. And Denise loved her too much to destroy that moment with old ghosts. So she swallowed the shock, locked it away again, and smiled softly despite the storm suddenly raging inside her chest. "Yeah," she lied quietly. "I'm good." Well, friends, that's part 1. Should Denise tell Maya of her suspicions? Or should Denise keep her secret buried? Will Min-Jae and Maya continue to pursue what's happening between them? If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Your continued support will help this channel to grow. Thank you, we really do appreciate all of you.